Hello and welcome back to the Pitwall Podcast, where today we are breaking down the final race of the 2024 F1 season, Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
Wild, dude. We're done, man. I mean, like the whole season's over. That's it.
Podcast is over. Goodbye.
All right, thanks for watching. It was quite the race. Lots of emotions for me.
Yeah.
I have much to talk about. But first, be sure to like, subscribe, follow at the Pitwall Pod, and of course, quali in 60, but you know what? I'm not going to time it because I just don't have enough time to talk about this quali in 60 seconds. So just bear with me here. This is going to be a little bit longer of a show, but it's the last one, except we're doing another one and a lot of stuff over the break. So there will still be content. So just keep coming back. Keep coming back. So qualifying started out with the usual suspects of Jack Doohan, the new in an Alpine, that car, getting P20, Franco getting P19, Lewis Hamilton getting P18. And let's just break this down for a minute. So Mercedes sent Lewis out way too late. And I was already mad about that. But as you know, how many times have I mentioned this? I made an evergreen thing where every time, just look at what time it is. They're sending him out too late. Yeah. So, and on his flying lap, Kevin Magnussen decided to send us one more gift and absolutely shoot a bollard right at Lewis Hamilton as he's going by, not intentionally. I don't think. He just sped up all of a sudden and hit this bollard, and it shot right underneath Lewis's car perfectly and it timed as such to where there was no way he could have avoided it. Yeah. And the man was up 0.3 on George Russell's time, so he could have easily, because it was like the last three corners. Yeah. And instead he lost like 5 or 6 tenths and was out for his final qualifying ever in Mercedes. Yeah. And if that's not the most poetic thing, where he was fast and then slow in a Mercedes.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
It was very frustrating. And Zhou Guanyu after that, P17.
Shocker.
But outqualified Lewis Hamilton because of all of this. Yeah. So I was raging. I was very upset. I was like, I cannot believe that this happened, but I can at the same time. Yeah. Anyway, told you couldn't do it in a minute. P16. Not only that, K-Mag got out and was in P15. So he got to Q2 by shooting a cone at Lewis Hamilton. Just saying. And then a big deal was that Charles Leclerc was in P14, which he also had a 10-place grid penalty for a battery problem. Mm-hmm. So that would put him at dead last, basically, to start the race. Yep. So that's also fun in the fight with McLaren. Yep. So it seemed like it was going to be totally over, but it definitely was not. Lance Stroll, P13, Liam Lawson, P12, Yuki, P11, and Checo actually got P10. He made it into Q3. Congratulations for your final race at Red Bull, probably. But he got beat by Valtteri Bottas in the Sauber. So that was incredible. Way to go, Mr. Saturday. Fernando Alonso, P8. George Russell, P7. Pierre Gasly, P6. Max, only P5. I think he damaged his floor in Q2, if I had to guess, because he had this crazy, like slingshot maneuver thing that happened. Nico Hülkenberg in a Haas, P4. Carlos Sainz, P3, and then a front row lockout, Lando, Oscar, 1-2. Yep. So very wild qualifying to start the final race of the season. As wild as it could be. But with that said, there were a lot of penalties. So the starting grid of the bottom was Lewis Hamilton 16, Doohan 17, Albon 18, Leclerc 19, and Colapinto 20. The way the math worked out, Colapinto had to go behind Leclerc. Yeah. So, but that is not how the race ended. There are 2 people in that list that I just listed that had an absolute masterclass of a drive at this track, and we're going to talk about it. So I'm saving Lewis for last. I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. So if you're waiting for it, it's going to be at the end because I need to be able to contain myself for the rest of this. So where do you want to start? How about Zhou?
I mean, I could, that's fine. Another no points finish for the Sauber. I mean,
but he did get points. He did get points in the year.
Oh yeah, in the year. But I mean, majority of the time he did not. Well, alongside his good old teammate.
Well, Bottas also didn't get points. He did hit somebody though. He hit K-Mag.
Yeah,
so
he did.
Way to go, Bottas. One more for the 44-77 game.
He also hit somebody else.
He hit 2 people?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember him hitting 2. Oh, he hit Checo. See, can you enlighten us? Why couldn't Checo continue the race?
That's a great question.
They have not said. As far as I thought maybe you'd have information.
No.
I looked it up right before this, and I couldn't find anything.
No,
so
I didn't see anything on their on their debrief after the race or anything like that. So I still have no clue. Maybe it'll come out like tomorrow or something when they announce, Liam Lawson or something. But
so is it happening?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to have. I think like there were rumors last time, like around like before the Mexico Grand Prix, if you remember. But
yeah,
like,
of course.
Nothing is like as big as this, I think.
Well,
there's nothing about Checo that's been like as like, okay, this is happening like this week.
So I think Checo maybe has the best negotiator of all time, or whoever did his contract, because I was reading, and there's an article that I was reading that basically is like Checo, they can't really, like he somehow negotiate to the point to where he has to willingly leave.
Yeah.
Which is wild. He has like the RB20 held hostage, like somehow. So I'm very interested to see how this
I think that's why this whole like ambassador thing was brought up at some point.
Yeah, they're like, here.
Yeah, they're trying to like give a dog a bone, like just like, we're going to give you this. You're not going to be our driver, because like, I mean, they could surely like, if I was just thinking of Red Bull, they could surely think of a way to convince Checo, like, your life's going to be hell next season if you don't.
Well, like the other thing is he kept saying on Thursday, I have a contract. I will be driving. I have a contract. I think the more I think about it, this is like a play by Checo where he's saying that it's like a negotiating thing. But I don't know why he got out of the car. I really don't. People were saying that maybe he couldn't get the car moving again, but he didn't get hit that hard. He could have at least got back to the pit.
Yeah, if you watched it, it wasn't like terrible. I mean, the only thing is like, could have potentially had like some broken suspension,
but still he could have got back to the. It's just very weird, very, very weird. So, well, I don't know, but I do think that was his last race. I've come around. I think Red Bull will find a way, even if it's like, all right, you're our driver, but we're not going to put you out on track.
Yeah,
like we're literally just going to only put Max out on track. I'm so serious.
Yeah,
think about it. At a certain point this year, it didn't make any difference that Checo drove a single race.
Yeah.
Did not. They finished in third. Max could have finished in third by himself.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, there was a slight chance for.
No, it did not matter. It made no difference.
Yeah. I'm talking about his last two DNFs. I'm saying, there could have been
No, I'm saying they would have saved money. They could have saved money.
Oh, for sure.
By him not crashing. Yeah. He never helped Max in any situation. No. Maybe he let him by a little faster with blue flags, but he won the race by more than a second. Like, never helped.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you.
I'm fully 100% convinced at this point that they're going to do something.
Yeah, and speaking of, I think Lawson's probably going to be it.
Does he deserve it the most?
See, I don't know, because I mean, it's like right now it's in my eyes, like it could be Yuki or Lawson, respectively. Like, I don't know. Lawson's got the hype around him, but like Yuki's got the consistency with V-Carb and like being in the Red Bull family, and like putting up with being in a V-Carb for this long, especially.
I think they're gonna do Lawson, but I think Yuki deserves it more.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten to that point where I'm like, dang, maybe. I'm a fan of Lawson, and if he gets the seat, I will root for him. But like at the same time, I'm like, Yuki's been in that AlphaTauri V-Carb for a while now, and has went through teammate after teammate, and he's survived all of them.
He's beaten all of them.
Yeah.
He beat Lawson in basically everything. He
beat him in this race, but I mean,
he beat him in qualifying every time this year.
Lawson got a 10-second penalty this race. His front left wheel, the engineer, or what is it called? The
race engineer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, race engineer did not screw it on tightly enough, and it was.
It's like a stop and go penalty.
Yeah, stop and go. So when he left the pits, you could literally see the wheel wobbling back and forth on the axle, and then later on the final lap of the race, engine gave out on him. So
incredible race.
Yeah,
he did technically classify though. He did technically classify as 17th.
Yeah,
not classified. So there's that. Well, yeah, Yuki didn't have a spectacular race either. Finished P12. Not great for RB. Yeah. But it was a worse season than everybody was expecting, but not me. I was never convinced that they were going to be this fat. It was like, dear God, they're going to come out with the third fastest car because they're just using the RB20. Yeah. Remember all this?
Yeah.
Does that feel like it 5 minutes ago and the season's already over?
I was about to say that sounds like
we were just talking about
maybe
that.
a month ago.
I know.
Max.
No.
Dude, what I wish we could have had, like you said, Checo was pretty much useless past Miami or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, what I wish we could have seen was, especially for Ricardo, they already kind of knew around that time like he's probably going to be out. Put Yuki in the Red Bull seat for the remainder of the season.
Just see what happens.
Put Lawson in the V Carb seat and like you said, see what happens. I would have rather seen. If you'd asked me at the beginning of the year, I would rather Lawson be up there. But now I kind of I wish I could see both of them in that seat. Like, I don't know. Maybe they'll both test over the season.
It just
actually, I saw that Lawson was getting Red Bull testing.
So is Yuki. So is Hadjar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's like they're in various.
I didn't see anything about.
They're
Yuki,
in various. So they keep changing who's in which car.
Hadjar, I don't know about.
I don't know.
I mean, he also just lost out on the F2 championship, but
not his fault.
Yeah.
I think they should have got Colapinto. I'm going to be honest. I think his flaws outweigh, or his good outweigh his flaws.
Yeah.
Personally, I could be wrong. They've taken enough Hail Marys.
Has Colapinto crashed in every race he's been a part of this season?
Not every race, no.
Nearly.
No, because he got points. So.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying crashed out of the race. I'm saying in the weekend.
I don't think everyone. I don't think every race. That is something to be considered.
Yeah.
But as Christian Horner once said,
that was a big thing about Logan.
He'd rather see them crash trying.
That's true.
Than not try at all.
That's true.
And that's what Checo is doing. Here's all you got to say.
That's what Checo is doing?
Crashing and not getting them anything.
Oh.
And not really trying, it seems like.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I thought you meant Checo was trying. I was like.
I mean, he might be trying. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's such a problem. So
yeah.
Anyway, we could do a whole podcast or something. So let's move on. Alex Albon had, I would call, an okay race. P11. Yeah. Williams just had not a spectacular year. I think P9 is in the championship is the worst they could have done, and they did.
Yeah.
So.
Colapinto DNF'd. Got hit from Piastri at the beginning of the race, and obviously not how he wanted a season to end. But him and Vowles both seemed very confident that this was not his final F1 race.
Yeah, which is interesting. There's a lot of that going around.
Yeah.
Because Valtteri Bottas also seemed kind of confident. Zhou even seemed kind of confident.
I don't know about Zhou. I could see Valtteri. I could see Colapinto.
Speaking of Valtteri Bottas.
I could see Colapinto coming back if Carlos finds a better seat.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know.
Speaking of Valtteri Bottas, he got a grid penalty for the next race that he's a part of, which is incredible because he's probably going to be a Mercedes reserve driver. So I think
if he ever
has to step in, yeah,
he's got a 5-place grid penalty.
Tell me my team didn't exhaust all their luck. Come on,
that's pretty funny.
What are the chances here? So yeah, I think Valtteri Bottas is going to have a seat. And just think about it this way: if Antonelli is a complete bust, Valtteri's right back in.
That'd be pretty crazy.
Exactly.
The George and Valtteri beef,
dude. I think they're over it. I think it was one time. I think they're over it. I don't think they hate, not like the George and Max beef, which we should talk about, which is George and Max went to complete war on each other. I said we had a war last week.
Yeah.
This was
worse.
This was a full-on blitzkrieg assault.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm using a German word with the Mercedes team. But seriously, it was insane. George just laid it all out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to lie, I became more of a George Russell fan through all of this. I'm sure you maybe have a different perspective, but Max didn't really say too much in retaliation, but he didn't really have a chance to because apparently the way they interviewed them, George went second. Mm-hmm. So he didn't have a chance to respond.
Okay.
So,
there were some reporters post past those interviews that spoke to Max, and he basically was just denying pretty much everything George was saying.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously I tend to believe George. I've seen Max act like that.
Yeah.
So, and then he follows it up with what happens during the race, if you want to talk about that. So,
with what's it called?
With Max turn 1 incident.
As Piastri put it, the world
a move of a world champion.
Yeah, move of a world champion. Max took out Piastri, made him spin out. Which do we talk? No, we haven't talked about McLaren. It messed up his race pretty bad. Max didn't as much. But it didn't really matter for him. But Max, in my opinion, so basically what happened, Max hit the back
like kind of the middle of the car.
Yeah, back left of Piastri's car. Spun them both. They both spun out. And for Verstappen, I don't know. It's like at this point in the championship, like
why
you gotta be a little safer than that when it's this close of a constructors championship. I mean,
well, as soon as Checo DNF'd, Red Bull was locked into third.
Oh yeah.
So which was hilarious for them to say on the radio. I was gonna say, I just can't believe.
No, I remember hearing. He's like, and Red Bull is now locked in.
Me and Kendra just turned to look at each other. We're like, the downfall is complete.
No, it is not. We still got drivers.
Well, yeah. I mean, what'd you think? Did you think it was Max? Do you think Max made a big mistake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My dad.
This race should be like your safest you were driving.
Yeah. He didn't need to
for everybody.
Well, let me tell you, he provided some entertainment value because I went into this going, well, McLaren's got this thing locked up. Worst case scenario, they finish second and third if somehow Sainz passes them, and then it instantly changed the entire race and made like Ferrari have a chance.
Yeah.
But if Lando just went on and win the race, which he did, McLaren would be constructor champion. Yeah. So that's actually funny enough. McLaren winning the constructors champion. I mean, I have a tilted view, but even the way that it was shot was not the main story of the very end of the race.
Not at all.
So it's not the main story of the podcast either. But congratulations, McLaren. You actually did it. Very surprised. You could have won by more.
Yeah.
So I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Fun fact, though, that I realized after the race. Mm-hmm. So how about you? Sorry, I kind of stole your thunder, but Carlos Sainz got second in the race.
Yeah.
But if you remember, back to Baku, Carlos Sainz and Checo crashed, right?
Yeah.
That was enough to swing the championship. If they had not crashed and Carlos had just given up third, Ferrari would have won the Constructors' Championship. Now, it's just ticky-tack to go back to one thing. But because think about it, that didn't hurt McLaren either way.
Yeah.
Because Red Bull was not going to win.
Yeah.
And they would have stayed in third.
Yeah.
So that doesn't benefit Ferrari in any way. But if Ferrari had just given up, they would have won the Constructor Championship. Wow. Isn't that wild? So you can trace it back to there. That is the moment they lost. That is the moment that because that's the number. That's the number that they made up. Because they did make up some points on this race, but it was not enough. Yeah. So, wild.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things. I mean, you could also say that Ferrari lost the Constructors' Championship when they went like 3 terrible races in the middle of the season, where if they had even scored like a few points each per race, they still would have won. So, with that big of a slump and the little development that they've done on this car, you got to say that Ferrari is one of the two favorites going into next year, I would say, between them and McLaren.
Agree.
Yeah. So, which feels refreshing to say with Lewis going to Ferrari. So, because it's been a minute. It's been a minute. So, let's talk about a few other things, and then we'll talk about Lewis and stuff. So I mentioned Albon. Hulkenberg had an okay race. P8. I mean, he scored points, so that's big. But, he started higher up, so I was hoping maybe he could get more. But
for Haas.
It's great.
Pretty dang good.
They did not get 6th in the championship. Alpine did, which was pretty wild.
Magnussen finished P16, by the way. So last of the people who crossed the finish line.
Yep. And his last race.
Yep.
So he had a very sweet radio message from his wife after that said, "Come home now." To you and your child. Yeah. She was there. But, how did Doohan do it his first race?
Not very special of a Formula One debut. We've seen better. He finished P15. So, I mean, only one place above the last of people who finished. I mean.
And Gasly got 7th.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
big points for that.
Did I expect much different? Like, not really. I mean, not because of, like, him as a driver, but just, like, you're kind of getting thrown into it at the end of a season on top of all these developed cars and these people battling for a championship and someone battling for, their final race in Mercedes. I mean, like, this one was a tough one to get thrown into.
Well, let me tell you something. I got a bone to pick with Alpine again.
Yeah.
Because they handled this totally wrong. Yeah. You're going in and you're fighting for 6th in the Constructors, which is major for them for money. Yeah. You put a new driver in, and they're acting how important it is. It obviously is not that important to you if you're putting a new driver. Yeah. And second of all, they took their team photo on the grid with Jack Doohan and not Esteban Ocon, and that is horrible.
Yeah,
there are plenty of seasons with less than 23 races.
Yeah,
and he doesn't get the team photo. Like, that's horrible. I'm sorry, that's terrible.
Yeah, they should have just let him finish out the season. I mean, one race doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know if they were testing Doohan. Now, maybe Colapinto's going to go there and they were testing him, but that's also crappy. Like, that's not how you handle this.
No.
It's not how you handle this.
But it's Alpine.
It's Alpine who bottles drivers constantly.
Yeah.
So good for Ocon, man. I mean, just get out of there, go to Haas, have a grand old time. Him and Behrman will probably get along well.
Yeah, probably.
They're going to have to make the cockpit much larger because Ocon's like the tallest driver. So
is he?
He's one George of the, it's him or George. Obviously, they're like an inch difference. But I mean, they're not like they're like 6'1", which is not tall for us. But for them, it's very tall. Lewis is like 5'9" or something.
Yeah, I know. Seeing him next to George is so funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So anyway, let's get on to Ferrari now that we've covered all of that. We covered McLaren. Congratulations, Ryan, by the way. He will be here for a podcast that we're going to do. For the next episode of our podcast, we're doing a big season end where we're going to open the envelopes.
Yep. Oh,
Very
dude,
excited.
I'm so excited, man.
Me too. So yours came, we already disclosed this. Both of ours came correct.
Correct.
Awesome. That's going to make it so dramatic.
Yeah.
I was worried because, like, I mean, I already won the pit wall thing, but I don't want to, like, smoke you with, like, an amazing prediction.
Yeah.
Which I did, though.
You probably did, yeah.
I have an incredible...
Mine's like
I hope ours...
out there, but not, like, as bad.
There's a chance ours is the same, and we both just think...
I don't know. I don't think you would say this.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see. You'll find out.
Not like I don't think you would believe it or like that you would have predicted
I want to know,
but I don't think you would have picked this for your envelope.
Don't say anything. I was going to ask you I was going to ask you for a hint, but I've made it 10 months.
No.
It's been sitting
we're waiting.
sealed in a drawer out there.
It has not been touched.
Not been touched.
Not been opened.
So there's cameras, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
We've taken this very seriously.
I have it printed out.
I have it printed out
in an envelope.
So we talked about science. Let me talk about the massive race that Charles Leclerc had. Charles Leclerc.
This man is my father.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Charles Leclerc, my driver of the year.
Oh yeah.
Gonna go ahead and say it. I mean, it's hard not to give it to Max. He won a bunch at the beginning, but Leclerc outperformed.
Outside of Red Bull fan, take it off. I'm a root for Leclerc on this, or I'm a agree with you. I mean,
and I'm not saying that because I would say this anyway. Yeah. I have mixed feelings about Lewis going to Ferrari, but Leclerc outdrove constantly. He delivered when he needed to. This man went from P19 to P2.
Yep.
Or sorry, P3.
Yeah.
And just absolutely masterclass. I mean, he drove more aggressively because he knew he had to, but he didn't hit anybody.
Yep.
A ton of contact in this race, ton of penalties, nothing for Leclerc.
Yeah.
I think, especially since the summer break, he's the man. So very impressed with him. Ferrari did lose. He seemed very upset about it, but
Sainz or Ferrari?
Leclerc.
Oh yeah.
Leclerc. Sainz, I think there's a lot of other stuff going on with him. So. But again, I was very impressed with Leclerc.
Dude, well, I mean, with that race, I mean, I would be too. Because, if Norris was 2 steps down, it would have been over.
Yeah, so, I mean, they were there. They got themselves there. So, at the beginning of the race, we thought it was over. Then we thought maybe they had a chance, but Lando was just a little too good to catch. Yeah. Sainz kind of said it good. He was like, they've been a 10th faster than us the whole race. The whole weekend. So, very impressive. I mean, they got lucky with Piastri crashing out as well. He did end up getting a point. Also, K-Mag went out with the fastest lap, just by the way.
That's crazy.
He boxed for 4 sets of tires during the race. So that man was just like, let me burn up some rubber here.
Yeah, just let me enjoy my final race. We didn't mention it, but Max finished P6. Didn't really matter too much since Checo DNF, but
yeah,
we're going to throw it out there.
And then is that everybody? Oh, George finished P5. But as I mentioned, this is Lewis Hamilton's last race with Mercedes. I was prepared for how emotional I was going to be, but I was not prepared to the extent that the emotions would hit me. I haven't cried in probably 2 or 3 years, and I cried like a baby when he started doing donuts on the grid. Lewis Hamilton came back from P16. Let me make sure that's right. No, well, he qualified P18, but he moved up.
Yeah, he moved up to P16.
Yeah, and he got all the way up to P4, including a last 3 corners overtake without DRS on George Russell. It was unbelievable.
Do you think he let him through?
I don't think so. I watched his onboard. I watched George's onboard.
I mean, there's definitely I'm not saying like
he
could have
fought it harder.
Go ahead. Yeah.
He could have fought it harder, but
I don't think he was going to do that.
I don't think he was expecting it because there was yellow flags because of Liam Lawson, and I was like, oh great, this is how it ends under yellow flags at Abu Dhabi, like haha, like universe got me again. And then Lewis on this, there's this amazing picture of him in the same position with Max from Abu Dhabi, where he got overtaken and he overtakes George. Wow. It's incredible. It's like cinematic. It's almost as good as if he won, not quite. But I was not prepared for the level of emotion that I was going to feel. He started doing donuts, and I just like I was thinking about like what I would want to say, and there's honestly not like words to really describe to him, but I'm gonna try. So, and I'm gonna save a lot of it for when he retires. I think I've been thinking about like how do you handle this. Like I think I need to save a few things, but we do video production as a career, and I really wish that one day I got to interview Lewis so I could tell him some of this in person. But the thing about Lewis Hamilton is he's always been my thing. Like, we're Alabama football fans, but that's we. Yeah. And my parents are Alabama. I have multiple generations. Lewis Hamilton is like my thing. Like no one else that I know is a Lewis Hamilton fan. And that is completely by y'all's own choice. All of you started watching F1 like you were like aware of it, like but like everybody else that watches it chose different drivers. I mean, my parents chose Max long before he was successful. Like and a lot of people think I'm bandwagon fan because I chose Lewis when he was successful, but that's not why at all. Lewis like inspired me as a person, and I've learned a lot through him. And he also, I was going through some challenges similar to how he's gone through some challenges in the last couple of years. So like, and especially around when the Abu Dhabi thing happened, and that's why it was so personal to me. So he's inspired millions of people. And I hope one day I could sit down. I don't want to get into too many specifics, but of like what it was that I mirrored with him, but I doubt I ever will. But if I'm ever lucky enough to sit down with him and tell him exactly point by point how he like inspired me, that would just be incredible. There's no one on the planet I'd rather meet more than Lewis Hamilton. I think he is probably the most important person to me that is outside of person I've ever met, for sure. And there are millions of people with a story like this, but I'm just glad to be one of them. So, I mean, that's all I can say. He had a beautiful, beautiful post-race message about, it's what started as a dream, became a journey into the history books, something like that. But anyway, he did donuts and he got out of the car and he's just crying, dude. It was just like, I didn't know they were going to do that. I didn't see the document ahead of time. So to see them have him line up on the grid with the thing, I was like, oh no, I'm so toast. Like that's what I was thinking. And I just cried. Like I just cried. And the team really came around him. And I think this is good for everybody. I really do. Toto also said, if we can't win, I want you to win. And I just thought that was really cool. That's not something that is very normal. And one of the last posts that Mercedes done about him is it says he'll always be Mr. Mercedes. And I was like, yeah, he will be. And who knows, man? Life is long. Crazy things happen. There's like a 5% chance maybe he'll go back at some point. I mean, that would make his retirement not feel the same. But I'm really excited for this chapter. I think him and Leclerc drive a very similar car style. I've already heard that they're making setup and style changes to their car for next year, including cockpit position, which is one of the biggest things for Lewis. So I have a feeling that this may be cooking up something special. And I have some stats for you about the last time that Lewis switched. So Lewis Hamilton's last race with McLaren in Brazil 2012. All right. A Red Bull multiple-time world champion spun on the opening lap and recovered to P6. Happened at this race. Sergio Perez retired on lap 1. A British driver secures victory for McLaren. A Spanish driver took second for Ferrari. And the other Ferrari also was on the podium at P3. All of this happened. So basically, 7 more championships, or 6,
repeats itself.
Locked in. I really think he's going to get one. I really do. I think it's going to be kind of rough though, because I think he's going to win next year and then just like is going to be a steep decline. Not because of him, but I think the regulation change is just not going to benefit Ferrari at all. So I think it's like next year's big, dude. Next year's a big no-go for Lewis. It's like the 8th is now or never. And the thing is, he also has to get up to speed at the same time. So if he wins next year, I think it's going to be his best championship, period. So, and the thing is, he's like 30 seconds away from being a 10-time world champion. Legit. His first season as a rookie, he lost by 1 point. He crashed in China the second to last race in the pit lane, or he would have been world champion. He won his second season. He got beat by Nico Rosberg because of a DNF and also a couple other things, but he barely lost that one. And then Abu Dhabi. So he's just a few from being a 10-time world champion. Like, he's been in contention for it all but the last 3 seasons. Yeah. So, anyway, I could go on, but I mean, thank you, Lewis Hamilton. If you ever hear this, please let me talk to you and interview you. He has seen my face before. He liked the Almave post. So maybe that meant something to him.
He did share it.
Maybe that meant something to him. So, who's your winner and loser for this race, my guy?
Winner's going to be Norris.
Yeah.
I mean, and just McLaren, I guess, as a whole. Like, drove a better season. They definitely deserve it. So, and also just to see Zach Brown go crazy was hilarious.
It was pretty funny.
It was funny. As much as we're like, ugh. It was pretty funny.
My favorite moment of the race, unrelated to like anything, was when he said, we have 28 more laps to go. And Crofty goes, good news, Zach, there's actually only 18 laps. And he goes, oh.
When they were interviewing him.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Who's your loser?
Loser's going to be Checo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just 2 DNFs in a row. I mean, you're probably not going to have a seat next year. Like, part of it, like, I'm a Red Bull fan, and like I came into this sport like not being a Max Verstappen fan. I came in like as someone who used to watch Red Bull, like the motocross racing, like the rally racing, and I found out they have a team in Formula One. So I'm like, oh, okay, I know who I'm rooting for. And then at the time, like Checo was like freaking awesome.
Yeah,
and like
I was pulling for him to get the Red Bull seat.
Yeah, and it just sucked. It just sucks because, like, I was a huge Checo fan. I loved him because he did it. I mean, you know, as much as, like, you know, these past 2 seasons have been pretty trash.
Yeah.
When I started, like, he was, like, the guy for Max to, like, lead him to his championships. That's where, you know, I mean, the Mexican Minister of Defense. Yep. Like, so, like, part of it sucks that he's leaving, but also it's, like, what have you been doing? So it's like a bittersweet moment for me, but obviously not as much as you with Hamilton.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand. I like Checo too. That's the thing. I hope they keep him for my sake. I don't need 2 drivers fighting for points from Red Bull. So, my winner, I'm going to give it to McLaren for winning the constructors. I'm going to give it to Lewis as well, just for a really great. Like, I mean, the qualifying was horrible, but I was like, this is setting up for a masterclass. And I was kind of hoping we almost got a safety car at the right time.
Yeah.
When Bottas hit K-Mag, it was the perfect time for Lewis to pit. I believe that's the right time. And I was like, oh my gosh, Lewis is going to pit and everybody else has already pitted. He's going to win this race. And then they didn't call a safety car, of course. But yeah. And then loser, man, I'm gonna get to Colapinto. I think Colapinto had a really rough ending, and I think that I don't know. I feel like we're gonna see him again, but it's not gonna be the easiest path. So I'm also gonna give it to Ocon.
That's fair.
Extra winners and losers this time. Ocon deserves a loser because he got screwed out of a last drive. He had a special helmet made, like all of this, and they made the wrong decision again. And it was Otmar's fault, of course. So always Otmar's fault.
It always is.
I think we're going to see him again. 2 little other pieces of news before we go. Now that we got some of the emotional stuff out of the way. Max Verstappen is having a child.
He is.
How do you think that affects his future in F1?
I think greatly affects it. I mean, especially since the fact where I think like a year ago, might have been 2, he like specifically said like, I'm retiring when I have kids. So
I think next F1 season's his last season.
Yeah, I could see that. This one, no, because like I feel like he would have probably just said it by now.
Rosberg retired 2 days after at the prize giving ceremony. So now Max Verstappen has to do his community service this week in Rwanda. So he's gonna maybe be thinking about it while he's out there. But
I don't think so. I don't think it's gonna be.
I think next season's his last. I think it makes sense. Like
yeah.
I don't think Red Bull's going to be anywhere near where they need to be at 2026. Why suffer through it? I really think next season is going to be the last season. So I'm genuinely hoping that Ferrari and Red Bull have the fastest cars next year because we deserve one more Lewis Max battle.
Yeah.
And I think Lewis is going to be like 5 years ago all of a sudden again. I think the switch, a lot of this sport is mental.
That's true.
So I don't remember what the other piece of news was. Well, we know that Cadillac's coming in. They're announcing new things. Yep. We talked about that last time, but
and then Audi next year.
And then Audi. We got one more year of stake, and then Audi. So we're gonna see Nico Hulkenberg in that ugly green.
Wait, no. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry,
Audi's
I
in
had
26.
confused. Sorry.
Yeah, lots of changes coming. Yeah. Lots of new drivers. It's gonna be tough in the draft. Hope you do better.
Thanks. Hey,
well, I'll tell you what.
I've got my lineup.
Well, we got 2 more videos for sure coming at you before the end of the year. We got a big, maybe 3, a big podcast where all of us are going to talk about the full season, play a couple games, that kind of stuff. And then I also have a vlog from Coda that I've yet to finish and that people have actually been messaging me about and asking for. So, and then final thing, please vote on our F1 fan awards.
For sure.
We're getting responses already. I'm very happy with the turnout thus far, but I really want as many voices as possible. It's easy for me to send it to a bunch of Mercedes fans and skew the results. So I don't want to do that. I want genuine what the fans say. So we're going to keep doing this. Hopefully it'll catch on, but be sure to be looking out for that.
Yeah, for sure.
The voting closes
on the
15th, which is this Saturday. Yep. So as we're recording this. So, all right, that's it. Anything else?
It's been a fun season.
Best season.
Since we've started.
Yeah, since we started the podcast. Yeah. And I think next season is going to be the best season in Formula One history. Not because Lewis is winning.
Ooh, okay.
I think we're going to go into
It's going to be the most competitive, you think?
I think we're going to go into the last race with Lewis, Max, Leclerc, and Piastri, not Lando, in contention for the World Drivers' Championship, and it's going to be who wins the race.
Okay.
Seriously. And Lewis is going to win in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Way too early prediction. Lewis is going to win Abu Dhabi. Yeah. Kool-Aid drink.
Kool-Aid drink.
All right, that's it. Bye.
See you later. Bye.